What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Noah Gray here, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Josh's channel and check out showmefootball.com for more.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fann of showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com, covering your Kansas City Chiefs. And this evening, I'm joined by my good friend Michael D'Arcy of KC Sports Report to react to the AFC Championship being set. Folks, we will have the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Buffalo Bills again in the playoffs after the Bills just barely scraped by, Michael, the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC Divisional Round. We're going to kind of just react to this matchup being set. But first off, Michael, how are you doing tonight? And what was your reaction to that game and that ending?
Josh, I'm doing fantastic. That was maybe the game of the year. Well, not game of the year. One of the best games of the postseason. I'd say the best game was probably the Commanders knocking off the Lions, but
yeah,
that was a really good football game. And I feel like, we did see the better team win. The Baltimore Ravens, man, they just can't get out of their own way. They turned the ball over 3 times. Mark Andrews, man, he might have to leave Baltimore after that performance. He fumbled the ball. He dropped the 2-point conversion. It is a bad night to be Mark Andrews, but I feel like we did get the best possible matchup, as in, like, this is what the NFL wants. It's the best of the best. These are the 2 best teams in football. It's like 1A, 1B, and so I think that the Chiefs are going to have their hands full, going up against this very talented Buffalo Bills team.
As far as the Baltimore Ravens, Michael, most of the people know that have been watching us that I wanted the Ravens to come out of this one. If you asked me which team I would have rather faced in the AFC Championship, it would have been the Baltimore Ravens, because I think they're worse at quarterback, or I think, Lamar Jackson is just kind of a notorious playoff dropper. And so it's like you have to pick the worst quarterback matchup because the better quarterback wins more often than not in the postseason. And Josh Allen's one of the few quarterbacks. Well, I would say he's the only quarterback in the postseason that I felt like could have came into Arrowhead or could have went up against the Kansas City Chiefs and strong-armed, willed his team into a victory. I did not feel that way about Lamar Jackson. You saw he even made some mistakes tonight. Now, the conversation is going to be more about Mark Andrews now than Lamar Jackson, even though Lamar Jackson turned it over multiple times in this game. But yeah, man. Mark Andrews, I fear for his life right now, going back to Baltimore, because it went from him fumbling that first time, and the conversation was, well, yeah, he fumbled, but like Lamar Jackson was still pretty bad. And then when he dropped the 2-point conversion, you couldn't really put the game on Lamar anymore. It's like, okay, no, this game is kind of on Mark Andrews. I mean, look, it was a team effort, and I mean, Lamar played a part in it as well, and he'd certainly tell you that. But yeah, I mean, this was a tough competitive game between 2 teams, and someone had to lose, unfortunately, and this time it was the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like going into this game, we both predict the Ravens to win?
I didn't predict them to win, but I wanted them to win. I thought Buffalo. We got the result that I thought we were going to get, but I was pulling for the Ravens.
Honestly, I thought that if Baltimore could have run the ball better, they would have won, but they got put in a deficit, and so they couldn't do that. And part of the reason they got put in the deficit, obviously this game was 7-7 at one point, Lamar turned the ball over. He fumbled that ball, and Von Miller almost turned that into a scoop and score. So it's just like Lamar Jackson still deserves a fair share of the criticism. That interception, Josh, who was he throwing to? Was he looking at us? Like, I don't understand who he was throwing that football to. And the fumble, man, you can't have it. And how many times are we going to look at Lamar Jackson and his postseason career and say, oh, that was probably a big back-breaking play. That's probably going to cost them in the end. Those 2 turnovers, I understand that Mark Andrews kind of is going to be the guy that gets all the shit, but he didn't turn the ball over. Well, he turned the ball over once, and he dropped that 2-point conversion, which is essentially a turnover. But, I feel like Lamar Jackson's 2 turnovers, they're not going to get talked about enough. It's going to just be the Mark Andrews show, and partly that is fair, but I think that if those 2 turnovers don't go their way, we got a very different football game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it was always going to be a big hole to climb out of for the Baltimore Ravens at the end of that first half. And I thought that they were going to get away from the run again, but you could say that the run actually got them back in it. They had that one drive that was very quick where they were able to strike back in the second half. It was a good mix of Derrick Henry and then Justice Hill, who actually had a really good game for the Baltimore Ravens. And sadly, that's going to be forgotten about. But look, they went up against a team in the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen that, have been, I think a lot of people expected them to be in this spot in the end. And it was always going to be really tough to beat Josh Allen and the Bills in Buffalo. And now they're coming back to Kansas City, where the only team really that beat Kansas City, Michael, is coming back to face them in the AFC Championship. Yes, they lost to the Broncos in the last week of the regular season. Nobody counts that game, let's be honest. So, we're not previewing this game yet, Michael, but off the top, what are some of your initial concerns, thoughts, feelings about the Buffalo Bills coming into Kansas City? I mean, this is going to be a really tough game.
My biggest concern is that Josh Allen is really good at football. I mean, he is just so good, and he can beat you in so many different ways. And you saw in this game, the Ravens didn't put a spy on Lamar Jackson, and that kind of hurt them at points in this game. And it's just something that, how do you not do that? Josh Allen is so good in those moments that to not have that prepared, I don't understand. But also he can beat you with his arm. So that's going to be something that I'm going to be pretty worried about on Sunday, because you saw CJ Stroud find receivers over the middle of the field pretty consistently. I expect that to probably not happen again, but who knows? He is that good. I'm not really concerned about the Bills' defense, but that offense, kind of getting back to Josh Allen and company, they can run the ball with James Cook. They've got very good receivers and Khalil Shakir, and, Keon Coleman's not great, but, they got guys like, who's the guy that they traded for? Amari
Cooper, and then Curtis Samuel, who has been pretty good for them this postseason.
Yeah, and Samuel hasn't been good during the regular season, but he's kind of having a Mecole Hardman run where he's just turning it on in the postseason. But I feel like their offense is really the only thing that necessarily concerns me. I don't think that defense is going to give the Chiefs offense fits. It's going to be can the Chiefs defense slow down and stop, Josh Allen? And if they can do that, they're going to have a good chance to win this football game. But if they cannot get off the field, we could be in for a very long game and a very tough game for this Chiefs team.
So, I kind of agree with you for the most part, but this matchup scares me for a few different reasons. One is Josh Allen, and like I just said, he's the only quarterback that was left in the postseason that I felt like could outplay Patrick Mahomes in a playoff game and potentially will his team into a victory, even, going up against Mahomes and the Chiefs right now, as good as they are. Yes, the Bills defense is not a unit that scares you, and they're weak on the boundaries, and their safety room is kind of weak, and you kind of attack that. But the problem is, Michael, that the Kansas City Chiefs offense hasn't really punished bad defenses all year. They're not a team that takes advantage of bad defenses. So in my mind, this comes down to, can the Chiefs defense come up with a game plan that is good enough to stop Josh Allen and the Bills? Because let's even look at this Texans divisional round matchup from over the weekend for the Kansas City Chiefs. Their offense was pretty lackluster for most of the game, but it didn't really matter, and we kind of overlook it because the Chiefs defense had 8 sacks on CJ Stroud, and the Texans special teams had several blunders that took points off of the board. That's why the Chiefs won that game. But we didn't really see DeAndre Hopkins get involved. We didn't see Hollywood Brown get involved. Andy Reid's play calling in the red zone was questionable at best. And sure, you could argue maybe that they're saving their best for this AFC Championship game, and I sure hope that's the case, because if they don't play better offensively, I'm not sure if that sort of performance can beat the Buffalo Bills in the AFC Championship. And that's where it's really going to come down to your defense, who has been the unit that this team has kind of leaned on for the better part of the last season and a half, 2 seasons. And, man, if they can keep Josh Allen at bay, in the run game, and also keep James Cook in check, I think they'll have a really good shot. Because you even look at tonight, Josh Allen had a very pedestrian game. He only threw for 127 yards, no touchdowns. He was 16 to 22. And he really didn't kill them on the ground either. He had 10 rushes for 20 yards. It was just in the red zone when they decided to utilize him where he was really dangerous. But I mean, it's James Cook, it's Khalil Shakir, it's some of the skill position players for Buffalo that's like, if you're not careful, those guys can create big explosive plays.
When here's the thing, Josh, the Ravens turned the ball over 3 times. And the
Yes.
Bills are a team similar to the Chiefs. They're going to capitalize on those mistakes. And 3 turnovers, that's too much. Maybe I can get behind 2. 1, you're easily able to manage that. But 3 turnovers, that's just not something that most teams are going to be able to overcome on the road in that environment with all of the cold and with all the snow on the ground. It was going to be very tough. Now, one thing that I will say, I was at this divisional round game. I watched the Chiefs and the Texans at Arrowhead Stadium, and I kind of had a thought where maybe the Chiefs just continue how they played in the regular season, where the game looks boring, the game looks like the Chiefs are going to lose, but they just find a way to play efficient football, make those 2 or 3 plays that become the differentiator in it, and they find a way to win. I would not be surprised if we saw a very ugly AFC Championship game where the Chiefs find a way to win a very ugly, close football game, because that's been the trend of this season. And honestly, I'm tired of saying that it's not going to work when it's worked 16 times this season.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this on your channel a little bit, but I also think there's a lot of pressure on the Bills. Also, this game is at Arrowhead this time instead of in Buffalo like last year's game. So the Chiefs obviously have that going for them. But I think there's a lot more pressure on Josh Allen and the Bills in this one because they've been a really good team. They've arguably been the best team in the AFC over the last half decade, but it's just been the Chiefs that are in their way. And that's why Josh Allen hasn't won a Super Bowl yet. That's why he hasn't won an MVP yet. We'll see if he wins one this year. But it's like, man, you can't get past this team. It's like your career is snake bitten because of Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So if it's the Chiefs up by 10, up by 9, maybe even just 7 points late in the third quarter, if you're Josh Allen and the Bills, you have the ball and you're backed up on your own side of the field and that Arrowhead crowd is rocking, that's when I start to get real nervous if I'm the Buffalo Bills. It almost becomes a boogeyman effect where it's like, we just can't get past this team.
I feel like it's almost like you're in this position where the air just completely gets sucked out of the building and you start to feel the pressure. You start to feel everything around you, because if the Chiefs go up by, let's say, 7 to 10 points in the third quarter, and let's just say it's late in the third quarter and the Bills are driving, that's when Steve Spagnuolo says hello and he starts to blitz the living hell out of Josh Allen, and they're going to figure out ways to make it uncomfortable for him. But if they're in a position where they're down in this AFC Championship game, Josh Allen might be the most capable quarterback outside of Patrick Mahomes to orchestrate a drive. But again, in these moments, the Chiefs have found ways to slow that down. And you can't really, I guess you can't stress enough how much the weight of all of these losses weigh on Josh Allen. And who knows that if he does get in a position where he's down, he starts to say, oh my gosh, it's happening again. Is this going to be another year where I go home? That's going to be the moment, Josh, that makes or breaks his entire career. Is it going to be a 4th straight loss to the Chiefs, or is he going to find a way to overcome that? Because, Josh, if he loses again at Arrowhead Stadium, I know it's probably not going to feel like it, and he's young, and he's got, an up-and-coming team that is probably not, shouldn't be in this position. He is going to feel like, man, this is the kryptonite. I cannot beat this team.
And I think that's the question that we're going to be asking all week, Michael, is whether or not they can beat this Kansas City Chiefs team. But we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up there. Trust me, guys, we're going to have coverage of this game all week, Michael and I, on both Show Me Football and KC Sports Report. So have your notification bell on for both channels. But that's a perfect segue, Michael, into asking you, where can the people find you?
You guys can find me on YouTube at KC Sports Report. That's kind of the one-stop shop for everything that I do. But yeah, definitely hit the like button on this video. Subscribe to both of our channels and turn those post notifications on. We are going to put out so much content this week previewing this matchup, because the Chiefs are 1 win away from, going to another Super Bowl, and then they're 2 wins away from three-peating. So there is so much to talk about. This game is going to be so much fun, and we want to preview this game with you guys.
You guys heard it all there. Michael's stuff will be in the description as always. As for me, you can check out my work on showmefootball.com, arrowheadaddict.com for more. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. Follow me on Twitter at ShowMeFB. That's all we got for this one, guys. We are signing off. We will see you in the next one. And as always, go Chiefs.